It's a crazy time in America, and that's why this episode of the Toilet Paper Diaries is how do we reunite the United States of America? Find out now on the Toilet Paper Diaries.
Episode 78.
Wow.
And, it is just absolutely insane. Let me tell you very much how I feel. I feel that like this week has been like the calm before the storm. We went through a very tumultuous time throughout the election, and suddenly this week was somehow quieter. But the undercurrents of what was happening underneath, it's actually very scary.
I'll tell you what it feels like. I wouldn't say it's a calm before the storm. I'd say it's like during First World War when they're fighting each other in the trenches and they took breaks at Christmas, played football in no man's land, and then went back to the battles again afterwards. It's like the gap where everyone's punched themselves out. They've got nothing left. They're just going, right, let's regroup. No, let's just chill for a while. We'll go back later. It's that kind of feeling. But the rest of the world is going, thank God that's over. Wow, can we get back to business now? But as you know, and I know, it's not over yet.
Absolutely, it is not over. Well, I think it is so weird. I mean, in the mainstream media, or as they call the MSM, everybody's talking about Biden defeating Trump 306 against 232. They did the recount. They had all the legal issues, and still Trump has not conceded. And this is just something which is really weird because, I mean, it is a tradition for on a transition of power that they are going to be conceding, and they're going to say, well, okay, I'm going to work with you. John McCain did it, and Hillary Clinton did it, and everybody has done it.
I just called Governor Clinton over in Little Rock and offered my congratulations. He did run a strong campaign. I wish him well in the White House, and I want the country to know that our entire administration will work closely with his team to ensure the smooth transition of power.
It was a privilege and a gift to spend 2 years traveling this country, coming to know so many of you. I wish that I could just wrap you up in my arms and embrace each and every one of you individually all across this nation. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
I have just called President Obama to congratulate him on his victory. His supporters and his campaign also deserve congratulations. I wish all of them well, but particularly the President, the First Lady, and their daughters. This is a time of great challenges for America, and I pray that the President will be successful in guiding our nation.
And right now, this is the first time in centuries that this hasn't happened, and this is somehow scary, I think.
Well, it is, and it's leading to a lot of different things, because I felt that once we found out who'd won, and let's face it, if Trump had won, for many people, it wasn't the answer that they wanted, but they would have just strapped in tight to deal with it. What you've got now is a situation where Trump and his supporters are claiming foul on what's been reported by Trump's own Secret Service to be the best policed and the safest ever elections ever. So Russian interference, Ukrainian interference, none of that. It was all stopped. This is the American people voting for who they wanted to be. And it was very close. 70 million people are unhappy. 75 million are happier. But still, it's not enough for everybody to be able to come back together and go, you know what, maybe we can deal with this.
But there's another 70 million that are not very happy,
they're not happy. And we could do a couple of different things to break up what people's thoughts are. It's very easy to turn around and say right wing versus left wing, but it's not. That's a spin that's been put on. Trump lost a lot of white voters to Biden. Biden lost a lot of blacks and Hispanics to Trump. Work that out. Trump gained a lot of women and lost a lot of women. So, and Trump got as many people voting for him as he did last year, 4 years ago, even maybe more, but Biden got more than anybody in history. So what you've got is an extra group of people coming to join the game, and they all bring their own sensibilities and choices. So where does that leave us? That leaves them in the current situation where if you get somebody not conceding when you're playing by Queensberry rules, you end up with it having to go to some kind of adjudication. And that's ultimately, I believe, why Trump wanted to make sure that the judiciary was stacked in his favor. Now, the rest of the world was already turning around saying, right, Biden, we'll just make friends with Biden. Let's get the world back together again. But that's not Trump's objectives. Trump really seems to want, and this is my opinion from only my observations, but it seems to be that Trump wants the battle to continue because if you delegitimize the entire system that you were in charge of, then you can make this spin for another 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and I think this is what many people are actually saying. I mean, that possibly he's going to once and for all accept he's going to get into his new news outlet, which right now, this is another thing which is incredibly interesting to see. Right now, we have CNN and MSNBC and all the mainstream media, and then we had Fox. But because Fox called Nevada for Nevada or Arizona. Sorry.
Arizona.
Yeah, he called Arizona for Biden beforehand. Right now he's going crazy, and he's actually getting everybody to go out into outlets like Newsmax and whatever the other channels are.
OAN, I think it is. But here's the thing. So right now there's a play that's being made to get an independent, a new champion, unfiltered social media news platform to keep everybody who doesn't feel happy about legitimate laws to be able to say what they want, do what they want, add conspiracy theories, and be unhampered. I think the smart play for Trump is to take over and create Trump News. He thought he had it with Fox. I think he wants to create it either out of one of the existing outlets, which would make more sense because they love him for who he is, and also the huge audience he brings with him, or he'll create Trump News. And then they can heckle for the next 4 years the presidency, the legitimacy of the US, and behind the scenes they can prepare for 2024. Yeah. That's the game I see.
Exactly, and I think there's also, I mean, as you know, I'm very strong in connecting dots and predicting trends and what's going to happen. And once again, if you go back in history, you're going to see it on what happened in 1918, which is very weird because it's almost exactly 100 years ago with the Weimar Republic. And this is just something which is very strong into what is happening right now. So right now they are going into a crazy frenzy of a stolen election, and right now there's no concession. How did it happen in the Weimar Germany in 1918?
The historical parallel that seems most appropriate today is a very dark one. After Germany surrendered at the end of World War I, ultra-right-wing groups concocted the myth that Germany was actually on the verge of winning the war in November 1918, but surrendered because of a conspiracy to destroy the country plotted by certain communists and Jews. In his book, The Death of Democracy, Benjamin Carter Hett explains why this stab-in-the-back theory endured. Quote, "The trauma of defeat left millions of Germans believing a particular narrative about the war, not because it was demonstrably true, but because it was emotionally necessary." Hitler often raised the topic during his rise to power. In a 1922 speech, he said, "We must call to account the November criminals of 1918. It cannot be that 2 million Germans should have fallen in vain, and afterwards one should sit down as friends at the same table with traitors. No, we do not pardon. We demand vengeance. Today, Newt Gingrich says this about Biden.
I think he would have to do a lot to convince Republicans that this is anything except a left-wing power grab financed by people like George Soros, deeply laid in at the local level. It's very hard for me to understand how we're going to work together.
President Trump retweeted this incendiary video of the actor Jon Voight.
This is now our greatest fight since the Civil War. The battle of righteousness versus Satan. Yes, Satan. Because these leftists are evil. Let us fight this fight as if it is our last fight on earth.
The historian Timothy Snyder points to the danger of such rhetoric. If you've been stabbed in the back, then everything is permitted. Claiming that a fair election was foul is preparation for an election that is foul. If you convince your voters that the other side has cheated, you are promising them that you yourself will cheat next time. Having bent the rules, you will then have to break them.
Can I just say one thing as a caveat for everybody who's watching this and freaking out saying that we're saying Trump is Hitler? We're not saying that at all. I'm not saying that Trump is anything like Hitler with extreme views of Hitler or the nasty piece of crap that Hitler was. All we're saying is there is a rule book for going down this route. And the playbook is quite plain. You start calling the news media fake. You start finding victims in society who can't fight back, who you know you can make and blame for everything. And let's put this in perspective. If you were to turn around to your neighbor and accuse them of homosexuality, of pedophilia, of stealing, of anything that they don't feel comfortable with, it's really hard to shake that label once people start looking at you. So this is what a lot of the fake newsy stuff is all based on. It's based on conspiracy theories that are so outlandish, are so crazy that they must be true, because how else would somebody have thought of them? If you keep piling them on top of each other, people start to believe them. And it's really easy when you base fear at the center of all this. So we're not saying that Trump is Hitler, but we're saying the playbook that we're seeing unfolding is very similar to what the Weimar Republic was going through, taking us back 100 years ago.
Here's something that I really like from this book from Benjamin Carterhead. He says, the trauma of defeat left millions of Germans believing a particular narrative about the war, not because it was demonstrably truth, but because it was emotionally necessary. And if you think about what has been happening right now, those people that still believe that this is not over and that Trump is going to win on the courthouse, that is just fueling the whole thing to go into what we can perceive as a complete parallel reality. That's what I think. What do you think?
I agree with you. I mean, thinking about the amount of banners that are going up now saying stop the steal, the idea that the left stole everything. Watching one congressman, for instance, being elected and talking about how his dad or his granddad fought during the Second World War to stop socialism in Europe. It was to stop fascism in Europe. It was a right wing against everybody else. It was Hitler and his cronies versus everybody else. See, he was only a socialist in the name National Socialism, which became Nazi Party. That's how it was worked. So there's a blending of different and blurring of things to kind of spin a story. So if we're going to blame the left, let's pretend they're all Nazis. And in that case, it's actually said by many people that that the left are fascists. I've heard that from many people in a way that they're describing the challenges of the Democrats versus what the Republicans are going through. So with that, let's look at the alternative realities. And you've done some work into this through your time machine, Ernesto. Where do we start?
Well, I think it's just important to say, well, it's not really that there's multiple realities, but they are different ways of seeing things. So they are called, in quantum physics, they are called multiverses, which is multiple universes. It's just one universe. But if you say, well, there's parallel realities, that means that there's two realities, and then you can just put them into another bigger reality, and that just becomes a universe. That's why you cannot really say that there's only one universe or two universes, because that will not really work in the way that you were thinking. So if you think about it, the first variation we have of multiverse, it will be the bubbles. And in this, I think possibly it's a good idea to explain it like if it will be pockets. Don't you think? I mean, I think that's just an easy way to explain it.
So let's deep dive into that. When you have communities that like to do their own thing, then that's a parallel universe. It doesn't necessarily mean that's a parallel universe as in spacemen and stuff, but they have a different agenda where, for instance, you have communities that decide that they're vegetarian and don't like to eat meat alongside anybody else. They'll go to a restaurant and they'll look at a menu and they will not touch anything if it's got meat on the menu. They can go even further. If it's got anything that's of a milk or animal product, they can stop completely. And they'll have restaurants alongside McDonald's and Burger King and so on, but that's their own little world. You've got everything from people's religions with Amish people who don't touch anything technical, anything electronic. They live in their own community, they till the land, and they have their own laws about how they do things. To American, Native Americans, to Sikhs, to everybody. It's natural for us to have our own bubbles.
Correct.
There's bubbles built in.
Yeah, we have a short video with an explanation of how that works. Have a look.
In physics, the word multiverse normally refers to one of three distinct and largely unrelated proposed physical models for the universe, none of which has been tested or confirmed by experiment, by the way. The three multiverse models are Type 1, bubble universes or baby black hole universes. This is the most straightforward kind of multiverse. The basic idea is that perhaps there are other parts of the universe which are so far away that we will never see them, or are inside black holes, so similarly we will never see them. This kind of model was created as an attempt to explain why our universe is so good at making stars and galaxies and black holes and life. As the argument goes, if each of these separate mutually unseeable bubbles in the universe had slightly different laws of physics, then by definition we could only exist in one that had the right physical laws to allow us to exist. Like, we have to live in a universe where the Earth could form, because if the Earth couldn't form, then we couldn't be here.
So there we go, we've got bubbles. So effectively what we're saying is Republicans are in one bubble, Democrats are in another bubble, Trump might be in his own bubble, but the point is that they see the world through their own set of lenses, their own filters, and anything that's up is down in their eyes if the other people think it's up. So Ernesto, with that in mind, that's bubbles. What other parallel universes could we examine?
Well, the other one would be to think of dimensions and membranes. And I think this is just a very important one. So, I mean, there's several dimensions. Right now we see there's 2 dimensions. Like if you're looking at the newspaper, I mean, if you see the newspaper, you have one newspaper that if you open it, it has several pieces of paper, several sheets, which each represents one topic. One could be about sports. The other one's going to be about the news. The other one's going to be about what's happening in town, whatever it is. And all these things are just put together in front of each other, and they have several dimensions. We have also a short video here so that you understand how that works.
Multiverse Type 2, membranes and extra dimensions. Inspired in part by the inability of the mathematics of string theory to predict the right number of dimensions for the universe we observe, string theorists proposed the idea that perhaps what we think of as our universe is actually just a 3-dimensional surface embedded within a larger super-universe with 9 spatial dimensions. Kind of like how each page of a newspaper is its own 2-dimensional surface embedded within our 3-dimensional world. And of course, if space had 9 dimensions rather than 3, there'd be plenty of space for other 3-dimensional surfaces that appeared, like ours, to be universes in their own right, but, like the pages of a newspaper, were actually part of a bigger whole. These kinds of surfaces are called membranes, or branes for short.
So there you go, and I think it's very interesting because, of course, all of them are just going on different slices, if you want to put it. But I think the one that is incredibly accurate, because it's a little bit like if it will be getting into different rabbit holes, which is a word that we keep on hearing from the Matrix, and what we keep on hearing that everybody goes into a rabbit hole, is the quantum physics version of it. So possibly, Dave, you can tell them a little bit about it.
Well, I can, because I can put my science fiction head on. When we start looking at the multiverse and the many universes, the idea is that we've got lots of things happening alongside. And when you put stuff into your perspective, you make one particular universe come to life. So, for instance, if you look at Groundhog Day, one of my favorite movies of all time with Bill Murray, he has different experiences of the world going through again, again, and again, as if it was playing the same experience. Then you got a movie, one of the original ones I saw a long time ago with Gwyneth Paltrow, I believe, in Sliding Doors. And the whole movie was based on the idea that she was running for a train and she missed it. And so she didn't make it to the meeting. And so all the things that happened were different because she had to go home. I think she went home and found her boyfriend was having an affair. If she'd gone to work, he would have had the affair and she would never have known. So it had split screens all the way through about if she'd got the train and if she hadn't got the train. Another example for you is if we take the Marvel universe and what happened with Infinity Wars, where they all went back in time to change the reality that they have right now, Doctor Who, all those things. So we've got experiences about and theories about multi-universes all existing at the same time, and that whatever you choose to do at any different time takes you into a split decision where you could have gone left or right, and whichever one you choose lets one different type of universe appear to you.
Multiverse Type 3, the many worlds picture of quantum mechanics. Surprisingly, physicists still don't fully understand how the collapse of the wave function in quantum mechanics happens, and the many worlds hypothesis makes an attempt at explanation by proposing that every possible alternate timeline for the universe is real, and they all happen in an ever larger, ever-branching way. Like a universal choose-your-own-adventure where every possible story happens. If this were the case, we might not realize it because we'd be stuck living out just one of the infinitely many possible lives available to us. In some ways, Many Worlds is similar to the bubble multiverse model by proposing maybe anything that can happen does, and we just happen to exist in a series of happenings that were necessary for us to exist.
It's very complicated, but that's quantum physics. I don't understand it, but I know it's there.
Yeah, well, I think the only point is that we have to see it in that way, because right now, some people are seeing, okay, well, this is the direction that we're going, and there's an alternative reality with other people are going. And now if we see it in America, we have 75 million people that have one way of thinking, and then we have 72 people which are thinking completely different, and they are going into two different realities, two different rabbit holes. So how is that going to be affecting the world?
Well, I think that right now, the rest of the world doesn't really pay attention to American politics in the same way as Americans are. We all followed, and I'm based in Dubai, as you can see from my backdrop there for the windows. We followed everything that was going on with Trump Biden, but then a result came out. And for most world leaders, they're saying, yes, just right, here we go, right, we're going to be dealing with Biden. That's fine, they say. And Biden has chosen to not fuel the fight. Remember we talked about the rope-a-dope where he went up against the ropes in politics and just basically took the hits until Trump punched himself out? He's doing that. Now the challenge is, if Trump doesn't go to jail, he can carry on punching, and his family can, and his friends and the 70 million voters can carry on punching. How long do you ignore that? Or can you address it? Or are you really going to reunite America? Now, we're going to be talking in a few moments' time about exactly what we suggest you do, or they do, to reunite America. But it's going to be interesting to see, because the world is kind of moving on. The world would be very surprised to see that this powder keg in the US blows up into something more substantial, like even a civil war, because we've all got our own issues. We've got coronavirus to fight. We've got economics to deal with. We've got the recession that's biting every industry, digitization, running people out of jobs and having to reskill the entire planet. We've got the mental health issues of the second pandemic, of people just being scared and paranoid and lonely and depressed. The idea that we spend another 4 years staring at America means that we just really have got better things to do. No offense to Americans. But let's take this back to the Weimar Republic. When Hitler took over and he used paranoia and he blamed the Jews and he blamed the socialists and he kept it going all the way through, what happened was the rest of the world couldn't stop it happening. So they tried to appease it, most famously in the UK, holding up the bit of paper that said peace in our time. I've met with Mr. Hitler. He signed a document saying there will be no war. There'll be peace in Europe. And of course, shortly after, he invaded Poland and everything exploded. I don't see that right now. I see that this is still very American.
Yeah, it is very American, but it is something that I think everybody should be concerned about, because historical correlations always, they always tend to play back one way or the other. They have been playing back every single time. And if we see what has happened in the 1930s and what is happening now, there's a lot of correlations, because right now, the fact, and once again, we are not saying, well, Trump is Hitler, or we are not saying anything like that, but we are seeing that divisiveness that needs to be changed. And one of the things that we need to think about is that moment that we have a new president here in the United States, there's going to be that bugging voice, whether it is in Trump's news, whether it is going to be the 72 million people talking about it. That parallel reality is not going to go anywhere. So we might have a cancer, which is actually going to be growing into the world, and it's going to start eroding everything, or we might have to look for an alternative world. And I think, in fact, if you're talking about parallel universes, also you can have alternative endings. I mean, it's like, those books that you go and you can choose your own adventure. And
I love them. I used to love playing like Dungeons and Dragons, but you can choose A, B, C, or D, and a different page to turn to depending on what you chose.
Yeah, correct. Robespierre used to say that it was much better to actually have people educated and help them understand how things was, that just keep them in the dark. And if we keep on, we don't have a common understanding on what is going on in the world, I mean, we are not going to a very nice place.
Let me say two things that we've got to be very careful of. When you use a term like cancer, I think that we're misrepresenting the thoughts of the people who are voting for Trump. They are legitimate. They want jobs. They want their industry to survive. They feel really worried about all the immigration that can take away the jobs that they're barely holding on to. They don't understand why other people should take what they've had for generation after generation. They're not cancerous. They're just scared people who believe that they had a champion who's just been cheated. So we have to be very careful about that. The other thing is, when we're talking about the world view, we also have to talk about the number of Trump allies around the world who are using the same original playbook. You got to look at Brazil, you got to look at Mexico, you got to look at, to a degree, at Britain, and you got to look at a number of different places, the Philippines, where you've got leaders who are real sort of power men who are using the strong arm, look at me, I never lie, I don't bleed tactics to split the countries and get themselves into power or stay in power. That's a number of things around the world we have to consider.
I'm very happy that you actually brought that, because when I started talking about the cancer, what I think the cancer is the misinformation. I think it's the divisiveness, and that is exactly what can definitely mestatize, or how do you say it?
Anesthetize?
No, mestatize, when actually the cancer starts growing.
Oh, it can increase and it can grow and it can well, it will just basically increases is a term I'd use first of all. You're right. This is what the cancer, if we're going to talk about it, is caused by the fact it's not dealt with when it's small.
Yeah.
That's the bit that we're looking at. It can infect. And the infection is not necessarily the ideologies.
Yeah.
It's the divisiveness.
Absolutely.
The fact that you believe that your way of thinking and the opposition's way of thinking cannot exist in the same universe.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, you need to have Republicans. You need to have Democrats. You need to have somebody who turns around and tells you you're full of shit.
I was having a conversation with a common Republican friend that we have, and one of the things that I was telling him is, I am not red or blue, I am purple. I believe in many things which are very similar to what the Republicans think, but I can also understand a number of things about the Democrats. So if we put it into Republican and Democrat, I think we can also say conservative. and we can also say liberal. So I believe in two things. So, for example, I am pro-choice, but I am about small government. I am about limited amount of taxes. So I am in both ways. So this has nothing to do with politics. This has nothing to do with the way that we're thinking. And we need both sides. We need the conservatives and we need the liberals, because right now what can happen, and this is one of the things, for example, which I already can predict. Right now, the Lincoln Project, where Republicans that were against Trump, basically the personality. But right now that they have elected Biden, the Lincoln Project, people like Mitt Romney and John Kasich and all these guys are going to be back to be Republicans. They're not going to be Democrats because they have that exact mentality.
There's mourning in the Republican Party. Today, senators and congressmen are waking up to the reality that Donald Trump has broken their party. They praised his mistakes instead of heeding the warnings, then blamed others to cover up their president's failures. With the economy in shambles, people across America are still unemployed, one of the worst economies in decades. This November, hundreds of Republicans are up for re-election, and with their goodwill run out, many have given up hope. Republicans worry their re-elections won't survive Trump's presidency. There's mourning in the Republican Party, and under the leadership of Donald Trump, their party is weak and scared and powerless. And now, many are asking, if we have another 4 years of Donald Trump, will there even be a Republican Party?
So what is very important is, you know what? We complement each other. And I think for me, the nicest example about this is we were watching Bill Maher the other day, Dave and I, and we started watching, what's the name of these two guys?
Gwen Stefani in a relationship with Brett. What's his name? The guy that was off The Voice.
The Voice, yeah, exactly.
Let me find out. You keep talking, I'll find out what his name is as I just Google it.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, he's as hardcore Republican as you can imagine, and she's, of course, a Hollywood celebrity.
Blake Shelton.
Blake Shelton, there you go. So once again, I mean, we have to, I mean, and we can live together. This is my whole point. We are not enemies. I don't see Republicans as enemies. I don't see the conservative as enemies, and I always have to explain. People don't see me as a extreme liberal because I'm not. I'm purple. But
you are not a liberal.
I am not. No. Absolutely not. No.
And here's another thing. One of my heroes of all time, and I didn't know it until after he'd passed, is John McCain.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, the guy would have made an incredible president. The guy during his life was so principled, so powerful, really cared about his country, about the good in people. He didn't see color, he just saw integrity. And he was a Republican through and through. And when he mentioned about the Lincoln Project, I welcome the Lincoln Project going back over to the other side effectively and going to the Republicans and saying, right, guys, this is our party. Let's regroup. Let's lead the charge. Let's get back in 4 years.
Yeah.
This is not, because what happens is you've got lots of good people, but when you've got this going on, it's very easy to sweep in, seeing the weakness and grabbing the feelings of people and doing something with it.
Yeah.
If you look at the fads that we have, Gangnam Style or Macarena or the Birdie song or any of these things, the music that suddenly grabs the world and go, oh, what? Let's all do it. They do it because there's something needed at that time.
Yeah.
Why would a guy like Psy with Gangnam Style suddenly end up with like 1 billion views, more than that, and everyone able to do that crazy dance? Is because at that time we needed something that just was mad enough for the world to play with. So
yeah,
maybe this is what we need, Ernesto. Maybe the answer to this is we look at some way to bring everyone together. And then after that, let's look at some good news.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a way to see things together and not separate. For example, it's been right now quite sad what has been happening right now on social media, that they are saying, well, I don't want to be in Facebook anymore because, of course, I am getting all this liberal media, which is whatever. So I'm going to go to this other platform, which is called Parler. And basically that creates more divisiveness. And that is not exactly what we are preaching and what we are saying. Just think about it. In March 12th, 2020, we started this road on the Toilet Paper Diaries, basically reporting the news of what was happening, all this good news feeling. And it was a project that we thought that it was going to last a month, possibly 2 months. We are right now way past month number 8. Very likely we're going to go into one entire year. And this makes me think about one project from one of the very famous YouTubers, Markiplier. He created Unus Annus, and he did something incredibly interesting. Does
that stand for one bottom?
One anus? No. That sounds like what's his name? Borat, no? In the anus.
Hello.
Yeah. No, it's one year. So have a look at this video so that you can see what this whole project is about.
Unus Annus, Unus Annus. We live our lives taking each second for granted.
But what would you do if you knew how much time you had left?
Unus Annus.
1 year.
This channel, much like all of you, has a limited amount of time.
And every day we march ever closer to this channel's inevitable doom.
That means we'll be uploading every single day until the clock strikes 0.
And then it's game over.
Bye-bye.
Finito.
Finished.
Curtains.
Gone, gone.
Night-night.
Dead.
Forever.
Make no mistake, this doesn't mean that we'll just stop uploading.
When time runs out, we will be deleting this channel and every single video on it.
And you'll never be able to see them again.
Because much like death, you can't take it with you.
And all we'll have is the memories that we make along the way.
And merch.
So the clock starts now.
But the choice is yours.
Will you join us?
Or will you miss out on your one chance to be a part of Unus Annus?
Because time is already running out.
The train is already moving.
So subscribe now, because death is coming.
Ask not for whom the bell tolls. Ring the bell for thyself to know.
For there are no second chances.
And if you miss out, all you'll be left with is regret.
Memento mori.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Unus
Annus.
What a great strategy, Ernesto. From that, what we'll do is once we've done a whole year of Toilet Paper Diaries, let's delete every podcast, every episode. Let's go underground. Well, we're in lockdown anyway, so it feels like underground anyway. And let's see if the world can live without us.
That is correct. Well,
you know what's going to happen? Nobody's going to give a shit. Nobody will know.
Exactly. But the funny thing is this has really catapulted these guys tremendously. But in reality, what I think is very interesting is if we put this whole year into perspective, that we have been basically reporting the news, how the whole thing has been changing. It's just absolutely insane. So we are right now in a place where we started united, because at the very beginning we were, you know what, let's just cook bread and let's just be nice with each other. And now suddenly it's like complete revolution. So the important thing is, how can we bring each other together? And that's exactly what this show was supposed to be about.
Well, here's an answer to it. And it's something that when I was doing motivational sessions in public with real people and not just online, I talk about the win-win negotiation. Now, this is championed by Stephen Covey in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So what it breaks it down to is that it's also used by the United Nations to use when you got 2 warring nations who hate each other, or 2 communities that hate each other for whatever reason. What you do is you get a sheet of paper. I'll just get a sheet of paper now to illustrate. So So here's one sheet of paper, and I can't tell you what's written on it. Oh, somebody's phone number. I'll take it upside down so you can't see. So then you split it down the center, and right across it, you write somebody's name here, one side, and somebody's name over here, the other side. So you basically got a diversion between the whole thing. You turn to the opposition side and you say, what do you want from this whole problem? What is it you really want as an end result? And you write down everything they say. We want this, we want that, we don't want this anymore, we don't want that anymore, we want to add this and add that. And you say anything else, and we go, no. Oh, yes, there is. We want this and we want that. And you write it all down. Anything else? No, that's it. Good. Well, let me tell you what I want. I need this. And you write down what you want. Now, the thing is, until you do the win-win negotiation, you think that they're against you and they're watching you and they're doing stuff to take you out. And it might be there's a conflict directly, but the odds are they just want their own thing, and it has nothing to do with the clash points that you think they are. So now you've got a list of what they want and a list of what you want. It's important to ask them first so they feel that you're listening to them. If you say what you want first, it's part of an argument.
And I said to him, would you mind meeting with me to see if we can resolve this? Because if we go to court, it's going to cost us hundreds of thousands, us and you know that. And let's meet without lawyers. So we met together, me and this gentleman. And I sat down and I said, help me to understand how you see the situation. Let's try to resolve this. If we can't, that's fine. We'll go to court. He goes, oh, okay, I'll give it a try. So he was sitting down, and I got up on the whiteboard, and I said, help me understand how you see this. He said, oh, well, this is how I see it, and this, and this. I wrote down about 15 items. And then I said, is there anything else? And he said, yes, this and this. And then I just walked through, and I just repeated back everything he'd said so that he knew I understood. And I asked him, do you feel like I understand you? And he said, yes, I do. And it changed me, because for the first time I could see his point of view clearly. He was right. We were violating parts of the agreement. And I was influenced by this. And then I said to him, would you mind if I shared with you the same way you shared with me about how we see the situation? And he said yes. And he was open to my influence because I was open to his. And so I walked through on the whiteboard all the things that we were sensing and seeing. And I believe he was deeply influenced and said, I understand. And the spirit in the room changed. It was suddenly mutual understanding, mutual benefit. We suddenly got into brainstorming about ways to resolve this. And in 30 minutes, we came up with a solution around us getting back our IP over a long period of time. It gives them time to adjust at a fair price. We both felt really good about it. It was a remarkable feeling because we started advocating for each other's position. And we left the meeting, shook hands, we resolved this. The whole thing took about an hour and 15 minutes. And he called me up a week later and said, hey, do you want to go to lunch? And I said, sure. And during lunch at one point, he goes, I always knew your family were good people.
And that's what's needed here. Right now, there's a ton of problems that the right, the Republican voters really feel they're going to be ignored. The left or the Democrats, and I hate saying left and right because that's not clearly true for most people, but they want certain things to happen as well. So why not bring out exactly what everybody wants? And what do people want? We can name it now. I want my family to be safe. I want to earn. I want to feel that I've got a future, and I don't have to deal with other people's crap anymore. And I want the virus to disappear so I can go out and not wear a mask and breathe proper air. And I want everyone to just get off the news and let me watch something boring of my own choice for a while. Yeah. That's not asking too much. That's where I would start. And that's not a partisan problem. It's a let's bring everybody together. And I believe if it was done properly with a real referendum and you acted on it, you'd end up with a united, or at least the steps to create a united America.
That is absolutely correct. I mean, it is, but it's not going to go by having all these divisiveness and trying to see, well, seeing each other as enemy. I mean, just right now, Neil Greenwich was talking about, well, it's going to be impossible for Biden to actually work together because all they're going to be doing is they're going to be blocking him, or having this guy, John Voight, the father from Angelina Jolie, saying things like this. Have a look.
The left will bring you down with their lies and destroy America.
This is insane. I mean, the moment that you have people which are doing all these different things, that is just going to take us nowhere. So I think this element of the negotiation is better. And you know what I really like, Dave, from this whole year, from this unus annus,
one bottom
that we have spent here together in the Toilet Paper Diaries, we have seen some amazing things that people have done together, and that keeps us happening. I mean, right now here in Houston, it was very beautiful. I mean, there's a local candy store which is owned by and this is really incredible, so that you can see that this can happen. He is 90 years old. He is a veteran, he is a cancer survivor, and he is a Republican. And right now he has a very beautiful candy store, which he said, like, if it is at the beginning of the century.
This is Don Baker. Don Baker, yeah?
Don Baker, the candy store owner.
Candy House.
Candy House, that is correct. So just have a look at how beautiful it was. The entire Woodlands community supporting him.
Look at that crowd.
Yeah, guys in the community heard about those tough times that this business is facing, and they wanted to step up to help them out. Take a look behind me. That is the line that has been this way for the last couple of hours, and it does not look like it's slowing down anytime soon.
An outpouring of support as customers line up for a candy shop in the Woodlands.
Everybody's trying to help out.
We support our local businesses, and that's what we're trying to do here today.
Can I have probably 6?
In a shopping center along Glenlock Drive, the Candy House has been here for over 20 years, but as of late, business has been a little off, with the pandemic only making things tougher for the owner, 89-year-old Don Baker, a veteran and cancer survivor.
Some days great, some days slow. That's the way it works with a little store like this.
After a recent conversation with a customer about how things have been, that customer took to social media asking for the community's help. That post has since gone viral, shared thousands of times.
I don't think there's any other word to describe it besides pure joy.
We saw this, we were like, we need to come, we need to support local.
There's even been a GoFundMe page set up that's already raised thousands of dollars.
It just brings tears to your eyes. It makes everyone so proud to live in a community that will come out and support someone.
It's great. I never planned this in my life.
Baker says the amazing show of support will certainly go a long way, making the community's effort to help him a sweet success.
I'm overwhelmed. I can't say anymore. I'm overwhelmed.
That's a beautiful story. And the Woodlands community, I can see in the backdrop through your window, that's all the people waving at us, millions of people who all contributed to Don Baker and the Candy House. Of course, we had a similar story in the UK with Captain Tom Moore, who walked around his yard and raised, what was it, £55 million for the NHS, the health service in the UK. Another wonderful story. You see, the thing is, Ernesto, there's some beautiful stories. If you can get people to come to the table and share love and share goodness, you'll realize that on both sides, there are good people.
Absolutely.
You have the basics there that they want everyone to be successful.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be at the expense.
Yeah, there has no, I mean, we all have the same things. As you were saying, we all want the same things. I mean, one of the things, for example, that for me was also very touching, and also it's a very important thing for my wife, is the fact that right now so many people here in the US, because of the lockdown, have been adopting foster dogs. And we all want that. I mean, we're all human beings. And it is beautiful to see how people are cooperating in a very nice way. So are there nice things? Absolutely. We just need to go for those nice things instead of actually focusing on the divisiveness.
And you've got to look at the coronavirus as directly being responsible for making people think differently about stuff. Let's take Crayola, for instance. Now, whenever I used to grow up and I used to crayon and create stuff, when it came to drawing me, I either had to be dark brown or black or orange or some color. There's never a skin color that could cover me. But now Crayola have launched a box of crayons that accurately allow people to do their skin color. Now that might seem like a nothing thing, but trust me, if you're of color, it's effective. Just like the fact that you can get plasters now for brown people. You never had them before. Because if you're white and you've got a plaster on, people might not see that you've hurt yourself. But if you're black, you've got this great big thing across your hand that says, I can't shave properly, or I've done something silly. And so just the pointing things out has made things better already.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also, for example, I mean, the first heroes of the pandemic, it doesn't matter in which side of the aisle you were or what your ideology was, everybody was adoring the incredible work that the people in the, for example, in England, the NHS, or for here, all the people that were working in the hospitals, right now that we are peaking again on the second wave or third wave, or I don't even know where we are. Right now, all these people are the ones which are changing us, and they don't care if you are Republican, they don't care if you're Democrat. And that, I think, is also something that is it's just absolutely amazing. And I think those are the things that we need to focus a lot more.
I mean, I've got to look at the whole thing from the big picture, which is if we hadn't had toilet paper running out of stock, or the idea of toilet paper running out of stock, and people talking about using bidets and so on, and if none of that had happened, we wouldn't be talking now on the toilet paper diaries. Take us back 8 months ago, we decided we'd do something. We tried to brainstorm the names. I can't even remember the names that we turned down. But the toilet paper diaries made sense at the time and make zero sense now, because we never ran out of toilet paper. There's not people walking around scared to bite their nails because they ran out of toilet paper, but the name's stuck. And in fact, your fingers would have if you didn't have paper in the first place.
Yeah, with the toilet paper diaries, I mean, all what we have been trying to do is, have a different perspective. I mean, our idea, we have had some complaints of people, you're taking the show too political. And it's not really that we want to take it political, but what happens is there are things which are just developing and they are happening. But our idea is to make sure that we bring joy, that we bring understanding, that we bring education. And the idea is, we are all in this together. We're all a big happy family in one single world. I mean, right now we're living in a world, and this is another thing that it doesn't choose if you are Republican, if you're Democrat, or whatever it is. Look at school. I mean, all these kids going to school on a digital way. Right now, we suddenly realize how important teachers are and how much we have to really thank them for taking care of our kids. And that is exactly another example of how important it is to make people happy and understand that we're all in this together.
Wouldn't it be interesting to see if after the pandemic and people start making TV and movies again, that we start seeing more movies about teachers, more movies about healthcare workers, and less about cops shooting people as a direct result of a different consciousness taking over. Right now, the idea of a guy with a gun like Bruce Willis running through, or Sylvester Stallone, has been there for forever. Cowboys before that. But it'd be nice to see if a caring world and real stories about people that help each other starts becoming a thing. And talking about that, for me, the biggest joy out of all of this whole experience has been my family. Spending quality time with my gorgeous wife, my beautiful daughter, my dogs, and the ongoing love-hate relationship we have, like the world's funniest soap opera. I was going to say it's like the Cosby Show, but then you've got to look at Bill Cosby. It's not that. It's the Cranes. Let me give you a little glimpse into what happens in the Crane house. And here we have my beautiful wife, Aziza.
This is what he
my
made
beautiful
me.
daughter, Maya.
I put chocolate syrup on it, and that's what my dad made me. That's it.
Yes, that's all you deserve.
A burnt pancake.
Now, people talk about during the lockdown that nothing happens, but Maya, you cooked all this breakfast, didn't you, on your own?
Mm-hmm.
And how grateful is Mummy?
The only one that I didn't cook was the burnt one that my dad made.
Shut your face. How grateful is Mummy? How grateful is your mother?
Extremely.
Oh, tell us then. Say it to the camera. Say how extremely grateful you are.
I'm extremely grateful. How do I break
Look into the camera when you say it.
I'm extremely grateful.
Right.
How do I break the crown? Which bit should I cut?
The Queen.
Which one?
Well, as soon as you do break it, we'll just get the crown.
The one that I accidentally put a doom doom on top.
What's a doom doom?
I don't know.
So how do I cut? Do I cut it this way or do I cut it this way?
You know,
I don't know, it doesn't
there's
matter.
actually a really good idea for this, and it's called I couldn't give a how you cut it, so
Fine,
just go
I'll
and
just
eat it.
fold it.
You've done it the wrong way! Go on, missus.
She's breaking her crown.
Is this the first one you've eaten?
Yeah.
It's like watching somebody eat for the first time. Mmm, yummy. Eat that, Mummy. Mmm. Very good.
Sorry I made them really thin because the first one after I decided to make mini pancakes.
Mummy chews like a
Because
camel.
there wasn't much left in the packet.
And verdict, Mummy, is it nice? So she can do it next time?
All the time.
Okay, good. Well, we run out of pancake mix. Mai, get in the car, go to the shop and get some more.
You get it.
Fill out the form first.
Alright, love you, bye.
You get it. How about you get it?
You shut your face, just eat your pancake.
Bye.
Babe, the strawberry you buy not sweet.
Love you, bye.
They're not sweet.
Doggy?
No. I told you,
Snow.
they have bruises all over
Tell
them.
them.
Try it.
No.
Try it.
No.
Open your gob.
You one.
Open your gob.
Give me one.
Open your gob.
Take it. Take the whole thing.
You know, that's lovely. That's a lovely clip. I mean, this reminds me of a lot of stuff that happens here. I mean, of course, Maya's a little bit younger. My kids are a little bit pretty much in their little bubbles because, of course, my daughter is into Ariana Grande and BTS and K-pop, and my son Vincent is into his trombone, and my wife John is into the dogs, and I am right now doing all sorts of things. But you know, at the end of the day, every single day we come together at 6:30 in the evening, and we have dinner, and we talked about our own experiences, and we at the end we love each other. So in my eyes, it is perfectly fine to think differently. It is perfectly fine if you don't agree with me. It is perfectly fine if you have conservative thoughts and I might not have the same conservative thoughts. We can all agree to disagree. What we cannot tolerate is absolutely the divisiveness and the destruction of the world because of a lack of understanding. And this is
I agree with you. I think ultimately the antidote to all this is exactly as you say, thinking about ourselves as a global family with lots of disagreements, lots of challenges, but at the end of the day, we spend all the time on the same planet. So when it comes to it, let's just stop the fighting. We can go back to fight again later, but see it as an argument. Don't see it as the end of time. And that's how we bring together America. That's how we reunite the world. And that's how you and I can turn around and say, maybe it's time we stop making the toilet paper diaries. Until then, you and I are going to have our hands full.
Yeah.
And people can keep watching.
Yeah. Dave, once again, it's been a great honor doing this beautiful episode with you.
I love it. You know what? If the world sorts itself out, let's just keep doing the show anyway, because we've got to find something out there that we can talk about.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Look after yourself. Catch you soon on the Toilet Paper Diaries.